Hello and welcome. This is Alchemistexe, and this is the banner overview for the week of August 18th. So before jumping into the banners, I want to talk about two different things. One, just Zofia and her class change, and then two, an item that is available in the secret shop. So starting with Zofia, a unique job on Necromancer, which is great because Necromancers are great for debuffing. There's a free gear that you can get via one of the summer events for Dorothea's Job Plus that any Necromancer can equip that extends debuff duration, which is great for a class that specializes that. In the case of Zofia, I find some of her debuffs are conditional on the units you're attacking being water, so you'll get way more potency out of her against a water boss. But even when that's not the case, like this boss, she can still do quite a few handy things, like lowering agility, lowering hit rate, and then just doing some decent damage on the side. She's got excellent synergy with my favorite Thunder unit, Iniku, so it was an easy decision to decide whether or not I wanted to fully enlighten her. And then she has got the max level available for the Gate 7 like Revenant gear. So you can take that all the way up to level 20, kind of like with Carla. So that's just a good, nice stat bump. So the second thing that I want to talk about is there is, for 1,500 gems, just regular gems, not paid gems, in the shop, you can buy a 150 Soul Shard selector. Now, for veteran players, I can't imagine it would be very appealing unless you're trying to cap out like an Enlightened Bond, something like that. However, for newer players, especially for players that do not have Letitia or do not have Letitia's Gate 5 yet, I think it could be a really good use of gems, because when I'm not slashing things to death, I'm usually using magic, and ever since her job came out, like to this day, however long ago that was, I've been using her very, very potent attack buff to just get magic users, or even anyone who scales off magic like Rado or Irene, or scales off attack. She's just absolutely indispensable as a support unit, and in addition, she can Veil. If you have Voda, there's some overlap, but I would not consider them perfectly interchangeable. Voda's better at some other things, like boosting more damage types, but just for right off the bat, start killing stuff with attack scaling, Letitia is your unit for that. So yeah, that's all I've got to say that is extra aside from the banner review. I will just say right off the bat before we jump in, there are some very good banners, but there's definitely going to be some things to consider if you want to spend gems on them. So let's jump right into that. And here we are at the banners. So one thing I wanted to point out is that's very important, that's going to be a recurring element throughout this banner review, is that for a lot of the banners such as this one, or anything with like a high degree of limited stuff, there is a time cutoff for May 2022. So any units or mementos that were released after that are not going to be appearing. So if that's really, really important to you, it's going to make these banners less appealing. But overall, I think that they're still quite good, because it's just so hard to get stuff that like so consistently. This one especially, because you can get 55 5-star mementos. If you go all the way and you have the worst possible luck, you would get 6 limited. That's still really, really good. And if you don't want to spend that many gems, like if you're like me, for example, and you don't want to go below 20k, I still think doing like 5 steps is a pretty good break point, because you can guarantee yourself 1 limited memento, and you know, if you're lucky, you might get 1 or 2 more. So yeah, it's a very, very good style. Next, we get up to one that's got a interesting style. It seems very overshadowed to me, because if you want mementos, the memento banner is the clear choice, because it's got the same May cutoff. And then if you want units, the Welcome and Come Back limited pool selection one, I think is just a much better option. Like technically this one is cheaper per guarantee, but you can't control which one it's going to be. So you could want units and end up getting mementos. You could want mementos and end up getting units. So it just seems like there's a more predictable alternative that the price differential doesn't quite make up for it. I think that if you were able to get more newer units and mementos from this, I would give it a higher endorsement, but I can't, because that's the case. So 3-step for Longhao and Orion. I don't really recommend this. I just think transmuting is better than this. And if you want to spend gems to get Orion or Longhouse, there's a better option coming up. So this is the unit equivalent of the awesome Memento banner. Same exact setup, it's just that it's units. So I think that it's less valuable inherently than the Memento version. And I think that because you cannot get you can't farm limited mementos. Like, you either get them or you don't. Like, so in the case of limited units, there's between the Babel ones and the ones that came out before EX hard quests became a thing. If you end up getting them for your guarantees, it really brings the value down, even if they're good units. Like, that would include Judith. And Judith is an absolutely amazing unit. It's just, I don't want to pull her from a banner. I'd rather pull someone that's harder to get. But nonetheless, if you're really, really like hurting for limited units, it's still a good value. I just would prioritize it lower than the Memento version, and I'd prioritize it lower than the upcoming banner, which is the Welcome and Come Back guaranteed limited 10 summon. So one of the units that you get is going to be guaranteed from a certain pool, and there are 2 versions of this summon, and the pool changes. So I will say that in general, like barring any other like specifics of, your or mine accounts, I think that the top one, the one that has Zaphyrus as part of the list, is a little bit better. It's got Zaphyrus, Alchemistexe, Morrigan, some other really good global units like Liwang. You can get Nero, Sol, Ainz. Really, it's hard to go wrong. You might not be happy if you got Minario, Dark Setsuner, Dark Zine, and then some other ones that are kind of wholly dependent on, where you are shard-wise, that kind of thing. But I think this pool is a little bit better just in a vacuum. However, there are some really good units in the other one. Like, mostly Andex, but you can also get Kaide, who didn't come out that long ago, so that's pretty awesome. Some other ones, I'm a really, really big fan of Zex. You can also get Quince, Ignacio, Shahel. So it's not like it's way worse. I just think that Zaphyrus really tips the scales on that one. So you'll be able to do one pull of one of these completely for free, because as a login bonus, one of these tickets is going to be given. You could also buy one for real money. I don't necessarily recommend that unless you were going to buy gems anyway. Then I think is a better way of doing it, because you get paid gems in addition. But if you weren't going to, I don't recommend spending for that. You can also just spend 3,000 gems per pull, and you can only do it a total of 3 times, but that's like 9k per banner. If you have a lot of gems, or if you're not waiting for anyone that's upcoming in particular, not a bad idea, because the chances of getting 3 duds is going to be pretty low. You'd have to be pretty dang cursed to get like 3 units that you didn't want. And just the ability to get Zaphyrus, even if it's a 1 in 25 chance for 3,000 gems, it's definitely not bad. Okay, let's move on to the recommended Limit Break Festival. I don't recommend this one, because any of these units, they all came out long before May of 2022. So I think you're just as likely to get them from the 55 unit banner once you get to the point where you start getting guaranteed limited. So I don't see the point of doing it. Now, this one I do see a point of doing it if you are after either Orion or Longhouse. Because unlike the previous one, this one actually comes with a 375 Soul Shard selector. So if you were hoping to get either Longhouse or Orion, then you could get them in a 7-step. And you'd have to transmute them, so sacrifice some of those shards. But I think it's a worthwhile trade, especially if they were a unit that you really wanted and you just missed the chance to get them. If you're not in that camp, though, I don't recommend it. So Zofia, I feel kind of bad because, her class change and brand new limited Memento are kind of a spotlight for this week, but all of the crazy banners are sort of overshadowing it. I will say the Memento as a max limit break bonus gives debuff duration +1. That's an excellent thing to have as a bonus, given her class. So if you want it, definitely, it's a good Memento. It's hard to justify potentially spending like 20k gems just to get that when you could get a lot more things for your equivalent amount of gems. But for the Zofia fans, it's there. And then finally, we get to a choose your own normal pool. You can pick 3, guarantee one of them. So there is a slightly better pool here, and like especially if you really really wanted Celliers or Mealikis, Memento, but I still don't think that it's really worth it ultimately, because unless there's three that came out after May and you wanted all three of them equally, otherwise I wouldn't do it. I just think it's once again overshadowed by the crazy awesome Memento banner. And then for stuff that's rerunning, like it's kind of last call for Claybell or Zafarus, and then some good Genesis Mementos. So yeah, that is it for banners. So I'm going to do 5 steps of that Memento banner. Alright, time for some summoning. So this is not a live reaction. That didn't really work out well. Get one shot at those. If I don't like the way it turns out, then no more live reactions. I don't value it that much that I feel like I really want to capture it. You know, if something really cool happens in the moment and I can capture it, I might be a little bit more forgiving for like kind of technical hiccups, like weird noises in the recording, sneezing. Sometimes I have to stop recording because it's like just either a cough or a sneeze. So yeah, Don Terrace, not too great, not horrible, I guess, but someday I might actually raise him. I could definitely pop off a few gates because I still farm him every day. I farm every EX hard quest that I can, just because it doesn't cost that much AP. Yeah, it can be really tough, because like I always want it to be genuine, but sometimes like the results of the banner just don't elicit a very strong reaction to me. Like, oh, I got this, that's cool. Like I'm calculating how much of a net positive, or I guess it can't really be a net negative, but it could be a net zero. The results can be, because like if it's something I'm really really excited for, then you'll know. Or it could be like this Monzine pull, which is good. I only had zero limit break 0 before now, so that is, my Monzine just got a little bit stronger. I don't use him a ton, but when I do, he'll be even more reliable. I'm pretty predictable with how I use my Thunder units. A lot of time it's just buffing Inaku and then Inaku kills stuff. Sometimes I'll partner him with Orion if they need to like split up and DPS stuff down. Other times it'll be Zafarus if some tanking is necessary, because they're pretty good about attacking him once he's in his dragon form. And then Inaku is free to take priority threats. That was how I did that. Is Remembrance right? Returner. I think I was thinking of a different game for a second there. But yeah, this one, that was a definitely a plus, getting the catch-all global Memento, because I think I only had that at 2 limit breaks. But yeah, the Returner quest, the one with the giant boar, my Thunder clear of that was by far the most fun, because it was mostly just Zafarus getting the attention and perpetually stunning the trash mobs that can't die, and then Inaku just gunning after the boar. That's very, very emblematic of how I like to use my Thunder units. Of course, Judith is the constant companion of both of them. And then the fourth person depends on what I need, is Veil or something Chrono, maybe use Nyx, or a different damage type. So yeah, so far, this one has not been too amazing. But I could use limit breaks on some of those. Like Kevin's, I definitely didn't have. But this one, accompanied by a synchronization error, this one is a pretty big win in the like support unit kind of way. But Elizabeth is really, really good. She is a lot of good roles combined into one. And then she can also cure alchemic effects, which doesn't come up often, but useful when it does. For the alchemic freeze selection grounds, oh, got another downloading. I just used Rado and Elizabeth, and I think that if you can be part of a 2-person team in a hell level, I think that speaks volumes to your utility. So I will say right now, something mildly improbable is going to happen, and it has nothing to do with Kevin. At first I was like, wait, I guess, yeah, this is the one that was improbable, just because it was both Valentine's mementos in a single pull. Now, I used Margaret a little bit. I thought she was all right, and then proceeded to never use her again. That doesn't mean I think that she's bad. It just means I kind of have other stuff going on. I don't use light veilers all that often, and when I do, it's usually Hisham just because he's so fast. But who knows? I'll give her some more testing now that I've got more options for her. And then finally, Eulalia +1, which is good because I use her in my Wind Missile team. So yeah, that is it. I think that is a pretty good haul for the amount of gems that I spent. So if you're summoning, I wish you good luck, and I will see you all next time.